Hey kiddos, tonight we are going to read a bedtime story. I'm going to read Dr. Seuss's The Sleep Book. And it says, this story is to be read in bed. Close enough. The news just came in from the county of Keck that a very small bug by the name of Van Vleck is yawning so wide you can look down his neck. This may not seem very important, I know, but it is, so I'm bothering to tell you so. Oh. You need the picture. A yawn is quite catching, you see, like a cough. It just takes one yawn to start off other yawns. Now, the news has come in that some friends of Van Vleck's are yawning so wide you can look down their necks. At this moment right now, under 7 more noses, great yawns are in blossom. They're blooming like roses. The yawn of that little one bug is still spreading. According to the latest reports, it is heading across the wide fields, through the sleepy night air, across the whole country toward every which where. And people are gradually starting to say, I feel rather drowsy. I've had quite a day. All those yawns. Creatures are starting to think about rest. 2 biffer-bum birds are now building their nest. They do it each night, and quite often I wonder how they do this big job without making a blunder. But that is their problem, not yours and not mine. The point is they're going to bed, and that's fine. Sleep thoughts are spreading throughout the whole land. The time for night brushing of teeth is at hand. Up at Herkheimer Falls, where great river rushes and crashes down crags in great gargling gushes, the Herkheimer sisters are using their brushes. Those falls are just grand for toothbrushing beneath, if you happen to be up that way with your teeth. That's pretty difficult. All that climb just for a toothbrushing? The news just came in from Castle of Krupp that the lights are all out and the drawbridge is up. And the old drawbridge drawer just said with a yawn, my drawbridge is drawn. It's going to stay drawn till the milkman delivers the milk about dawn. I'm going to bed now, so nobody better come round with a special delivery letter. The number of sleepers is steadily growing. Bed is where more and more people are going. In Culpeper Springs, in the Stiltwalkers' Hall, the Stiltwalker stilts are all stacked on the wall. The Stiltwalker walkers have called it a day. They're tuckered out and they're snoozing away. This is very big news. It's important to know, and that's why I'm bothering to tell you so. Way out in the west in the town of Merced, the Hinklehorn Honking Club just went to bed. Every horn has been quite quietly hung on a hook for the night in its own private Hinklehorn nook. All this long happy day they've been honking about, and the Hinklehorn honkers have honkered themselves out. But they'll wake up quite fresh in the morning, and then they'll start right in Hinklehorn honking again. Everywhere creatures are falling asleep. The collapsible frink just collapsed in a heap. And by adding the frink to the others before, I am able to give you the who's asleep score. Right now, 40,404 creatures are happily, deeply in slumber. I think you'll agree that's a whopping fine number. Counting up sleepers, just how do we do it? Really quite simple, there's nothing much to it. We find out how many, we learn the amount by audio, tellio, tallio count. On a mountain halfway between Reno and Rome, we have a machine in a plexiglass dome which listens and looks into everyone's home. And whenever it sees a new sleeper go flop, it jiggles and lets out a big ol' ball drop. Our chap counts these balls as they plop in a cup, and that's how we know who's down and who's up. It's a cool machine. Do you talk in your sleep? It's a wonderful sport, and I have some news of this sport to report. The world champion sleep talkers, Joe and Mo Reds Off, have just gone to sleep and they're talking their heads off. For 55 years now, each chattering brother has babbled and gabbled all night to the other. They've talked about laws, they've talked about gauze, they've talked about paws, they've talked about flaws. They've talked about quite a lot about old Santa Claus. And the reason I'm telling you this is because you should take up this sport. It's just fine for the jaws. Silly. Do you walk in your sleep? I just had a report of some interesting news of this popular sport. Near Finnegan Fen, there's sleepwalking group, which not only walks, but it walks a la hoop. Every night they go miles, why they walk to such length. They have to keep eating to keep up their strength, so every so often one puts down his hoop, starts hooping and does some quick snooping for soup. That's why they are known as the Hoop Soup Snoop Group. Woo! Sleepwalking too are the curious Crandalls, who sleepwalk on hills with assorted-sized candles. The Crandalls walk nightly in slumbering peace, in spite of slight burns from the hot dripping grease. The Crandalls wear candles because they walk far, and if they wake up, they want to see where they are. Now the news has arrived from the Valley of Vale that a Chippendale mupp has just bitten his tail, which he does every night before shutting his eyes. Such nipping sounds daily, but really is wise. He has no alarm clock, so this is the way he makes sure that he'll wake up the right time of day. His tail is so long he won't feel any pain till the nip makes the trip all the way to his brain. In exactly 8 hours, the Chippendale mupp will at last feel the bite. Ouch! And he'll wake up. Mr. and Mrs. Carmichael Crocs have just gone to bed near the town of Fort Knox, and they, by the way, have the finest of clocks. I'm not at all sure that I quite understand just how the thing works with the extra one hand, but I do know this clock does a very slick trick. It doesn't tick-tock, it goes tock-tick. So with ticks in its talker and talks in its ticker, it saves lots of times, and the sleepers sleep quicker. Ooh, there's their face. What a fine night for sleeping, from all that I hear. It's the best night for sleeping in many a year. They're even asleep in Zwieback Motel, and people don't usually sleep there too well. The beds are like rocks, and everyone knows the sheets are too short, they won't cover your toes. So if people are actually sleeping in there, it's a great night for sleeping. It must be in the air. It's a great night for snores. I just had to report of some boys who are tops in this musical sport. The snortiest snorers in our fair land are Snorter McPhail and his Snore-a-Snort band. This band can snore Dixie and Old Swanee River so loud it would make 40 elephants shiver. The loudest of all the boys is McPhail. He snores with his head in a 3-gallon pail. So they snore in a cave 20 miles out of town. If they snored closer in, they would snore down the town. They're loud. Do you know who's asleep out in Funa Laguna? 2 very nice Funa Laguna Barbuna. We've added them to our Who's Asleep count, which has grown to a really amazing amount. Exactly 8,808 creatures are sleeping now. Isn't that great? A Jed in his bed, and the bed of a Jed is the softest of beds in the world, it is said. He makes it from pom-poms he grows on his head, and he's sleeping right now on the softest of fluff, completely exhausted from the growing stuff. The news has come from the district of Doft that too oft are asleep, and they are sleeping aloft. How are they able to sleep off the ground? I tell you, I weighed one last week, and I found that an oft is so light, he weighs -1 pound. Give me a second. A moose is asleep. He is dreaming of moose drinks. A goose is asleep. He is dreaming of goose drinks. Well, that's well and good when a moose dreams of moose juice, and nothing goes wrong when a goose dreams of goose juice. But it isn't too good when a moose and a goose start dreaming they're drinking the other one's juice. Moose juice, not goose juice, is juice for a moose. And goose juice, not moose juice, is juice for a goose. So when a goose gets a mouthful of juices of mooses, and a moose gets a mouthful of juices of gooses, they always fall out of their beds, screaming screams. So, I warn you now, never drink in your dreams. That one was a tongue twister. Speaking of dreaming, I think you should note that the Bumbletub Club is now dreaming afloat. Every night they go dreaming down Bumbletub Creek, except for one night every 3rd or 4th week, when they stop for repairs 'cause their Bumbletubs leak. But tonight they're afloat, full of dreams, full of bliss, and that's why I'm bothering to tell you this. At the fork of a road in the Vale of Vavode, 5-foot wary salesmen have laid down their load. All day they've raced around in the heat at top speeds, unsuccessfully trying to sell Ziffer-Zoof seeds when nobody wants because nobody needs. Tomorrow will come, they'll go back to their chore. They'll start on the road, zizzer-zoofing once more. But tonight they've forgotten their feet are so sore, and that's what's wonderful. Nighttime is for. Everywhere, creatures have shut off their voices. They've all gone to bed in the beds of their choices. They're sleeping in bushes, they're sleeping in crannies, some on their stomachs and some on their fannies. They're peacefully sleeping in comfortable holes, some even on soft-tufted barbershop poles. The number of sleepers is now past the millions. The number of sleepers is now in the billions. They're sleeping on steps. Oh, I didn't show you the picture, I'm sorry. They're sleeping on steps and on strings and on floors, in mailboxes, ships, and keyholes of doors. Every worm on a fish hook is safe for the night. Every fish in the sea is too sleepy to bite. Every whale in the ocean has turned off his spout. Every light between here and far Foodle is out. And now, adding things up, we are way beyond billions, and our who's asleep score is now up in the zillions. $99 zillion, 9 trillion, and 2 creatures are sleeping. So how about you? When you put out your light, then the number will be 99 zillion, 9 trillion, and 3. Good night. Good night.